Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to do anything with this today. It's kind of dark. My lighting sucks, but it is what it is. We just got done walking. It's a little dark, but here's my little yeah. um, yeah. So long day. 5:55 on the clock. um, Past couple days just weird. A whole lot of too much peopling. Um, Last night was the visitation, so we were there for the time, and I did not get there on time, but that was okay because it wasn't needed. But I got there when I got there, and it was fine. And I don't know, it was just kind of, the whole thing seemed weird, I think, for like interacting with anybody. My cousins were kind of scattered and nobody really said anything, and eventually most of us ended up in the little room they had the snacks in and stuff, and just all were done peopling, I think. It was just a lot. And they had a video going in the back with pictures that were going through. And so on one of them, one of my exes had made the picture. It's like, well, why is he in that? Who wasn't paying attention to put that one in there? But the other one that used to have my ex-husband in it, at least that one had been appropriately cropped. And I think that was probably because it came up as a memory on my Facebook the other day, well, a few weeks ago, and I cropped him out and then reposted it with a little note that it was fixed. So at least that one was cut out, I guess, but the other one didn't need to be in it either. I think one of the weirdest things was, of course, there's all these pictures of my grandfather with all of my cousins and even my brother at various points in their early years. And then, like, not a whole lot for my brother, but my grandparents moved to Oklahoma when I was 6 weeks old. And they moved back when I was 8. So, my brother's 2.5 years older than me, so he got a little bit of time with them before they moved, and I did not. And they had one picture of me as a baby, and I was in it with my mom, I think my grandma, my brother. No, I think at least one of my aunts was in it, and not my grandma. I won't swear to that. I don't know, but it was a group of us, and then my grandpa was on the end, and I was like a little itty bitty baby. I'm probably crawling, but in the picture, I'm looking at him, and I have just this look on my face, like, like, what the hell? No, kind of freaked out, kind of a thing. And then it's like there were some pictures from trips we took to Oklahoma when I was growing up. Like, I remember at one point I had this birthday cake because we were out there for my birthday, and I had this little stuffed cat that was like this big on it. That might still be in a box somewhere, to be honest. That or Gracie's stuffed animal beanbag chair thing. Yo, quit! Ziva D. Ziva, stop it. Not sure what is going on with this dog here lately. She was like obsessively licking this seat. It used to have a seat cover on it, and I took that off the other day because her butt was on it, and it was really freaking cold outside. And I put a blanket on the chair instead, and like she's been licking the seat nonstop just about ever since. So don't know what's going on with that. She doesn't love that I'm my hand over her nose or over her mouth. But but yeah, like just the pictures, like there weren't a whole lot, and we didn't really have a whole lot of connecting time in those years. And then it's like seeing the pictures of my cousins with him. You know, obviously they had much more time because he was, you know, in the same state their entire lives. But I don't know, it was just a weird thing. And I was kind of thinking through, you know, like even my brother has a little more bonded pictures with him, and mine are all kind of standoffish. And it's like, I don't know. I guess I know that it makes perfect sense with me being so young when they moved away, and then, you know, they moved back when I was 8. It kind of makes sense that I always felt disconnected from them. But I don't know, even just listening to my cousins, it seems like we all have a very, very different experience of like just everything. I mean, which is to be expected, but I don't know, still strange. Hey, don't you start. Yeah, I don't know. Today was the funeral, and I mentioned before that they had talked to me about doing a eulogy, and I said I did not think I was the person they wanted on that. They ended up talking to my grandpa's best friend, which should have been done, like, to begin with. Like, that always should have been the person they talked to about it, because, you know, he had a whole lot to share, and it was, like, good stories, and it's like, you know, what I was hearing from, you know, the stuff that my mom and my aunt wrote or talked to the pastor about, you know, all the sisters talked with the pastor last week, and we're sharing memories and all that fun stuff. It's like, my experience was very considerably, drastically different than everybody else's. And I think today, listening to what all was being said at the, you know, funeral, and then just hearing people talk about him in the back, it was kind of like, obviously there's more to all of this that's going on, and I think I'm gonna have to take a while to sit with, you know, the stuff that was kind of coming up for me. I wiped off all my makeup today. Actually, I had like this different kind on, and I was tearing up and like wiping my eyes, and it like was over to here, and then it's like, well, that looks like shit. I'm just gonna wipe it off in case I did one of these. So, yeah. Which makes me think I'll run to CVS before I go home. Dogs are in the car with me, so well, they'll be all right. But yeah, just sitting there listening to everybody, or listening to these stories and everything. It's just like, I know my personal experience. I mean, it was my experience, or, you know, what I received from the whole thing growing up. Obviously, I've done a lot of talking about that on here, but I think it just feels like it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know, like almost like I have, okay, I said that I was done mourning his death back in August. And I feel like that's still true. But I feel like today, allow me to just pick at the sticker because I'm all fidgety and don't even really know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm aware that there's much more going on with all of the pieces to the, the puzzle, if you will. It's like there's much more to the family story, and my perceptions, obviously they were as they were for a purpose, but at the same time, it's like I feel like there's this little part of me that's maybe needing to grieve the fact that there were some things that could have been different that just, I was just sitting there and it's like, it feels like everything I know is wrong, and yet I know that's not entirely true because there's still stuff there that I've been picking up on all the time. But I think it goes a lot deeper than even I've been aware of in the process and navigating through all of it. It's just, I feel like I'm going to have to sit with some things for a while. But today I was kind of feeling like, okay, I know, like my pattern app talks a lot about how, with all my Cancer placements, I pick up all the toxicity in the environment. And I was thinking, it's like, what if, that was the big thing that obviously it affected everything, because like everything I've known has been very dark and heavy and icky, and I think that, okay, first off, Cancer, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Mars in the 12th house. So Cancer is associated with the 4th house, which has to do with home and family. And of course, the 12th house has to do with subconscious and, the stuff that, the deeper layers of things that are going on. So it's like the two connected make it, okay. And one of the things with Cancers is, that feeling thing, feeling all the feelings. And so I was thinking, it's like, what if most of what I was picking up on, including my own view of myself, was largely associated with the feelings he was feeling about himself, because I know he was very self-critical and anxious about everything, being a certain way and all this stuff. It's like, what if the reason I took everything so hard was because part of my purpose is to help transmute the darker, denser energies and turn them into something else. So a lot of what I received from my environment, the heavier, denser aspects of all my family that were associated with my grandfather and his, his self-criticalness and, being the judgmental type, all that stuff. It's like, what if it was mostly that I was receiving, which also became my own personal hell, if you will. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like all the the dense stuff. It's just like it was amplified in a whole way for me that nobody else had this experience of. I mean, like, they were reacting to it and living in a place where it was still affecting them, but most of them seem like they're completely oblivious to any of it at all. And it's like, I don't know. I just really don't know. Started the day with riding over to the funeral home with my parents and my grandma, and listening to my grandma and my mom bitch about my brother not being there and all that stuff. And I got after them quickly because I wasn't going to listen to it. It's like, we don't need to trash talk my brother. And, you know, I know he's got enough other stuff to worry about anyway, that it doesn't help anything. So, yeah. I don't know. And then I ended up sitting, where I put my stuff for the service, you know, was behind the row behind the couches, because obviously my mom and her sisters, one of my uncles, and my grandma were sitting on the couches. And my dad ended up sitting on one side of me, and then my cousin and her husband were down on the other side of him with her dad. And then the other two cousins two of the other cousins rather, were sitting on a couch off to the side. And the cousin that wasn't, that doesn't come around very much, was sat somewhere in the back. And my grandma's 91-year-old sister sat next to me. She's the one who, her family, rather, is the one where, the cousin that's 3 days older than me, that pretty much made my life a living hell growing up, and his family. I deleted them off Facebook, I think, last week. I was just like, you know, I mentioned that I was on, and somebody, like a casual acquaintance from from growing up, she put something on Facebook, and it just really hit me in a certain kind of way. And it's like, why are we friends on here? Because we really weren't friends. And, you know, so I deleted her, and then I went through and it's like, you know what, you guys can go too. And I got rid of that cousin and his dad and his brother. And I don't remember if there was anyone else on that round, but I was just like, you guys can go, you know, because of course his mom was the one who was putting comments on my page about you couldn't create anything and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't need you around. I'm going to just purge you from my system, you know, and let me do my own thing. And I think that might be an owl. That's kind of cool. But, the cousin that I deleted off, that was the sister up to my grandma. It was her daughter. And yesterday there was this weird kind of dynamic because, you know, it's probably got her feelings hurt more than anything. I was walking past her at one point. She wouldn't even look at me. She was just like, all right, whatever. And then I figured it was probably because I deleted her, and then when she added me back, I didn't take it back. But then I deleted her sons off and her husband. And I'm pretty confident they know. My one cousin, it's the older brother to the one I had issues with. He was talking to my dad and one of his sisters and her husband. And I went over to say hi to my aunt. And, you know, she and her husband ended up leaving shortly thereafter. And then this cousin started talking to me. And he's one that my brother and I went to a gymnastics thing for Gracie during the pandemic, and heard two guys talking about him. They didn't realize they were talking about the same guy, but it came up, and my brother and I were just sitting there like, oh no. It's like, don't acknowledge it, don't say that we know him. We're just kind of listening to the conversation, just like a whole weird thing. I think one of them knew him from biking and the other one knew him from something with the military or something. I don't know. It was just a weird thing. But he started talking to me last night. I'm pretty confident he knew that I deleted him. Because he's like, I don't know if we're friends on Facebook or not. And he talked about was friends with my brother, and I had this little voice just popped into my head. It was like, used to be. It's like, yeah, we're not saying that. So I was just standing there listening to him. He's talking about his kid is in the indoor percussion group for one of the nearby schools, not the same district that I went to, but he's like, okay. He just starts showing me all these pictures and whatnot, and it's like, okay. I don't know, whatever. And it's like I really didn't have anything to say to him, and he was just kind of talking at me. But then he asked something about what I was doing right now. It's like, well, had to move back in with mom and dad when I got divorced. And he's like, oh, and he said something about the D word, and apparently he went through one like 20 years ago, and it's like, okay. But something he was talking about, it's like, I don't know if he was talking about potentially approaching that with the current wife. I don't think that was the case, but it just sounded weird how he was talking about it. It's like, I don't really know what's going on right there, but whatever. So yeah. But today I sat by his grandma. Or rather, she sat by me. And my grandma has been complaining about her right and left, because like every time, she'd talk to her multiple times a day, and she's just calling all the time. It's like, you don't have to answer the phone just because she's your sister. It's like, you can ignore that. It's perfectly okay if you're not in the mood to deal with her. And she of course wouldn't go along with that or anything. She can't stand talking to her though. She got really irritated last night because she kept getting in, like, my grandma was trying to talk to all these people that she knew, and the sister just kept coming up and grabbing her in the arm and interrupting the conversations and talking to people that she didn't know, but also, she knew a bunch of them, because obviously they've lived together in the same town, lived in the same town for years, but still. My grandma spent a lot of time griping, but apparently the other sister, who lives in another state, came up with her daughter and son-in-law last night. They didn't get to stay for today, but they were able to come in last night. And apparently she was doing the same thing to that sister and getting on both of their nerves. Of course, it's the oldest one. And then today, when my grandpa's friend was doing the eulogy, he was telling all these stories and talking about stories that my grandpa had told him, and apparently they had ties from where they were from in the past, but the friend is like 16 years younger than my grandpa, I think. But when he was talking, my grandma's sister was sitting next to me. Like, she sat right next to me, and she's one that inappropriately timed comments all the time, and she's just sitting there giggling and and oh, this sounds like he's telling about my life and all this stuff. And I finally got to a point, like, I could tell she was getting on my grandma's nerves, which my grandma was sitting right in front of us, and I could tell she was getting at least on my mom and the middle sister's nerves. They were sitting diagonally over on the other couch. And I was just like, shh. And I think I shushed her like a good 2 or 3 times. And noticeably, apparently, like, I didn't think I was doing it that loud. It felt like I was sitting next to a little kid who I just didn't have any kind of manners and hadn't been, talked to about, how some people like to have their morning time at the funeral and not listen to you giggling and talking the entire time. And I just kept doing that. It's like, I felt like it was not done harshly. But apparently my whole family thought it was funny. Well, they realized it was me. So when we were at the dinner at my aunt's church afterwards, the first thing that was kind of weird is my great aunt was not there, and her daughter was not there, which her daughter was the one that took her there. And I think a big part of that was because the daughter has issues with me, and because I don't dislike her, but I dislike what she was putting on my my Facebook page at a time when I was trying to brave it up and start building something for myself and doing something different than I've ever done before. It's like I didn't want that negative energy and talking down what I was trying to do to get in the way of me doing the thing I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So I feel like this probably had something to do with the fact that she heard me shushing her mom as well, and then they just decided not to go, because usually her mom is trying to get invited over to the Sunday evening things at my grandparents' house or whatever else, because there might be food there or whatever. And so far she hasn't gotten invited. Apparently she sent my mom. It was kind of a sad thing how it came about. For my grandma's 80th birthday, we had a girls' day where all the daughters and the daughters of daughters took my grandma out for lunch. And it came up, I think, while we were out, somebody mentioned, should we have told Margie, because she was, she's in town and everything. And it's like, we didn't. Oops. And then, okay, my grandma's birthday is the day after Christmas, and we got a letter, or I think it was in the Christmas card or something. It didn't get to our house until January, but she had written to my mom and said, if you do anything, I would like to come, because I would like to celebrate my sister for her 80th birthday or whatever. It's like 3 weeks after the fact it showed up. It's like, oh crap. So then we kind of felt bad for that one, but well. It was peaceful though. So there was that. But yeah, I shushed her 3 times. It's like, I didn't tell her to shut the fuck up or anything. I just and it felt like I was just talking to a little kid that was really excited, and that was how I felt about it the entire time. Well, apparently, so at the dinner, my mom's middle sister was sitting across the table from one of their other cousins. He is the son of the sister that also didn't want to deal with that sister. But we were talking, I went over to her, I said, do you think Margie didn't come because I was shushing her the whole time? And she goes, that was you? And then it was like this thing that everybody was kind of talking about it, and I think everybody was kind of pleased that I did, because of the third time, it finally took, and she finally seemed to settle down a little bit, but then it was about over anyway. But yeah, that was the whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. But my cousins saw the two that were on the couch, that were like, were you shushing her? It's like, yep, that was me. And apparently, it was mentioned. Everybody was kind of laughing about it this afternoon when we ended up over at my grandma's house to drop off the flowers and my grandma and get ready to go our separate ways. We didn't do that immediately. We just kind of sat there and looked at each other and talked for a little bit. But eventually, yeah. But that was the whole thing. It's like, I feel like everybody just wants to talk about each other behind their backs. It's like, if you actually tried to address the issue, maybe you wouldn't have the issue to begin with, right? So like, hey, she's running her mouth. All you got to do is every now and then, and she'll eventually get the hint that she's doing something that's not acceptable. And yet, we're not going to do that. That's not nice. She's 91, blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to talk about her talk about her behind her back afterwards. It's like, that doesn't get anything done. It's not helpful. It just, I think, puts a rift there, where there shouldn't have to be one. So, yeah, but that was the whole thing. And, like, honestly, that was how it felt to me. It was just like I was dealing with a little kid, except it was this 91-year-old woman. It's like, okay. And she kind of annoyed me when she came in. I will say, I have found out that apparently her birthday is the day after mine. So I was very thankful to find out I was not born on her birthday when it was very, very close and could have been. So, yeah, that's not one I'd want to share. Not that it would be a big problem, but, yeah, just the nature of that whole dynamic. I'm just glad that was not something I had to contend with growing up. And, yeah. But I don't know. It's just a lot today. I feel like I just need to decompress some, and I'm going to have to sit with the things that came up, and I'm sure I'll be talking about it a lot on here, just because it's a lot that I was working through today, and it's just like, huh. Because I think that's the big thing, is I think that since I pick up on feelings that people might not even know are there, and they get amplified in my system, it's like I feel like that complicated things a lot more than I realized, because of course 12th house stuff, 12th house is, subconscious, the stuff that's in the shadows, the stuff that you aren't aware of immediately because it's the hidden things. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to work with this stuff. But I feel like there was a whole lot there. But that was the biggest sense, was that I feel like I was picking up a lot more of his feelings about himself. And since I didn't know exactly what it was, I turned it in on myself as well. And then it took it from how he was feeling and amplified it into how he was feeling, but also how I was feeling about myself. And, then it kind of just reverberates even more forcefully than it had previously. Like I said, I'm gonna have to sit with this one a while, and I don't regret anything that I've talked about on here, but I feel like I just have a different layer of what's going on. And yeah. I don't know. That's where I'm at, though. But I guess I will wrap this up and go home, because I really gotta go potty. Oh, I guess I'll go to CVS first, because I want to get that makeup thing that I broke the other day. Get another one of those, because nothing else is working out right. I tried this liquid liner stuff today that was the color of the shirt I have on under this, which is like a blue. Yeah. So I had that layer thing, and I kind of pulled the blue more into it, and, and got earrings, the little butterfly things, to kind of pull it in. And then I teared up more than I thought I would, and then it's like, well, shit. I looked in the mirror, and it's like over half ear. It's like, oh, yep, okay, there's that. Oh well, is what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up and probably spend some time writing this evening, and then just sitting with some things and going to bed early because I'm really tired. Funerals is just so much day. But I did kind of bond with my cousins in a way we hadn't in a long time. So, we all kind of sat close at the dinner, and yeah, it was good. It was like, it seemed more strained yesterday, and then of course the deal with my grandma and my mom spouting off about my brother. I started getting after them, and then my cousin, he was there when I got there. Apparently he was not informed about yesterday's stuff, or he would have been there too. But he said all he was told was 10 o'clock today, so he was there at 10 o'clock today. It's like, well, there you go. Did what you could with what you had, so that counts. And apparently he's got like 7 jobs. Dude, that's a whole lot. But yeah, we had a nice little chat for a while. I went in and sat with him when he left the main room and went over to where the little snack area was yesterday. No snacks today, just the fireplace, but he went in there, and I went in there and talked to him for a little while, and kind of nice catching up on that end. But yeah, I said something about ready to play the big happy family role or something. 'Cause, yeah, like I've mentioned how I felt relieved when he was born, because it made me feel like I wasn't the black sheep all by myself anymore. And that still definitely stands. But it's kind of interesting, because the way he was talking, it seems like he was he appreciated more my grandparents, and it was more issues with his immediate family that he struggled with more. And mine's just that tendency to pick up all the the dense energies in whatever environment I'm in. It's like, I am glad that I now have some sort of awareness about the importance of minding my own boundaries, because that is hugely helpful for me piecing together all of this other stuff, but also showing me, I guess, how much that's a thing I do need to actively be doing all the time, because I get pulled right in, and it's like, yeah, that's icky. But yeah, like I said, I got a couple things to do, and I gotta pee, and so I'm gonna get off of here. And so, as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.